What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Leveled Up Life podcast. It's Branamier, Courtney in the studio.
Good to be back, bro.
Paul McClain in the house today. It is good to be back, bro. We're halfway through summer. I'm rested, ready to go, fired up. Glad to be here. Listen, every single time we get in the studio, man, we say it all the time. We always leave so much better than we came in because our heart, our desire is to help people level up their life in all the areas that matter most, whether it's their faith, their family, their fitness, their finance, or their franchise. And so that's our heart's desire. So if you're listening, if you're driving, turn it up, lean in, because today we got a good one, man. It's going to be a good day.
We didn't just come back and just wanted to be just back in the same way we left. We came back and we brought a guest that's going to pour significant value into you. In fact, we sit back and oftentimes like, how can we provide value to you guys? And that's bringing on something that's brought us significant value. That's right? And so, Pastor Eli, we got a chance to connect first in the DR. We spent a couple days together hanging out and catching the vision that was going on out there. Brand came back a lot darker and tanner because he was back in the DR a couple weeks back ago. And man, you just came in, you fed the church phenomenal. I mean, it was such a great word that you brought. I feel like every time I'm around you, I get better. And I think ultimately that's the desire and the goal is for this to be a time where you guys get in or come on and you can hear something that empowers you, equips you, inspires you to go out there and be the best version of you. And so thank you for joining us today, man. Good to have you with us, brother.
It's exciting to be here. I think the feeling is mutual from the times that we've spent together, whether it be in the DR or the last couple of days. It's been very inspiring. So excited to be here.
I got to ask you a question before we get started. What was your first impression of Paul and I when we met in the Dominican? Like we had a couple of days together, but then one of the days we were like, bro, let's figure out something to do. And we walked through these random backyards, through the jungle, found ourselves at some karaoke bar. You were thinking, who are these dudes from California? Like, give us your honest thoughts.
I'm like, these boys from Cali are wild. Like, they're going through somebody's backyard in the DR so that we could make it to the clubhouse of the resort. Yeah. And that was my first impression. But hey, listen, influential enough that we followed suit. So here we are. If they get arrested, we're getting arrested too. Funny. That was kind of my first impression. It was all fun and
Yeah, well, I love the saying that you say. I've heard you say it often. I'll try anything once.
That's right.
And so you're following some boys from California through a Dominican jungle to a resort. You followed us and it worked out, man. Since the day we connected out there, you've been like a brother. So glad to have you out in California. You pastor an incredible church in Springfield, Massachusetts. I was going to say Missouri, Massachusetts.
That's right. Birthplace of basketball. Born and raised in Western Mass. Love New England. And by God's grace, we get to pastor a church last 17 years, church planters. And it's been a whirlwind. It's changed my life, and glad to be a part of the global church as well and see what the Lord is doing, not just in our state, but really around the world.
So New England, Boston area, the second greatest sports city there is besides Los Angeles. We got the Dodgers.
You got the Dodgers.
The Lakers.
I wore my hat for you today.
Oh, listen.
Which one do I go with today? I'm not Lakers.
Listen.
Huge New England fan, Patriots fan.
Die-hard New England fan in every facet. And I'll give you the fact that, yes, the Dodgers have owned baseball for the better half of the last 5 or 6 years. And the Lakers, who knows what's going to happen with the Lakers, but we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. The name of your church, Restoration City. I want to start there for a second.
Restoration City Church. Yep. So I'll give a little bit of a quick story. Candy and I, my wife Candy of 25 years, we're going to be celebrating 26 years in August.
Come on.
So we met in high school. As a young man, if you would have asked young Eli at the age of 17 as he was graduating high school, what do you love? I love Jesus and I loved Candy, and sometimes that love was out of place like it is with a lot of young people. And fast forward, Candy and I's first child was conceived out of wedlock. And having been born and raised in a Christian home, you know what happens when that is the story. You've got to kind of do the tour. So we had to talk to our parents and, hey, we did this wrong. I had to talk to her parents, and then I had to face my pastor. My pastor, since I was a kid, this man was a father figure to me. He dedicated me to the Lord, gave me the opportunity to preach my first sermon at the age of 9. So I walk into this meeting. And I tried to talk. I could not talk. I just broke down. So Candy had to lead the meeting. So for anyone that knows Candy is the most unassuming, quiet, wants to be behind the scenes, does not want the spotlight, does not want to have to speak. She led the whole meeting. I could not speak. And after she was done talking, my pastor looked at me and he said, Eli, you failed me, you failed this church, and you failed the Lord. But the Lord restores, and we're going to restore you. And from that moment, the word restoration it wrecked me for all the right reasons. For the next eight months, I could say, as we were expecting our daughter, that's when I met the Lord. That's when I got to know God, His grace, His mercy. And because of that word, fast forward, we have Restoration City Church. So we tell the story openly to all of our members, to everyone that's a part of our church. They hear the good, the bad, the ugly. The Lord restores. None of us that are here, as good as we may look, we all have a story of redemption, a story of restoration. So, yeah, that's our story.
I love it, man.
Yeah,
I love to see what the Lord. Because oftentimes we go through these hard times, or because you're sitting in good company. We all had kids at Wedlock here, so we all have
common ground going.
We all have a version of that story, and the Lord's not only restored you, but just to hear like what we've walked through and seen other people go through. It's just inspiring to see someone get pastored well, right, in that moment. Because I think a lot of young people are. The culture we live in now, they don't want authority. They don't want to submit. They don't want to bring their lives under submission to a pastor, right? But to hear stories like that and how a great pastor can impact your life, and now that one moment of restoration, that season of restoration has turned into so much fruit that you've been now able to restore, I'm sure, so many people's lives and trauma and hardship and pain, and see God take what the enemy meant for evil and turn it around for good.
I tell that story and I revisit the emotion, the raw emotion of it, what I felt. And the path of restoration, as I shared with you a couple days back, was not very structured. It was very simple. My pastor told me, this is what I expect from you for the next several months. I want you here at every service, and I want you seated no further than the second row. And back then, we used to have services Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays. And if you can't make it to service, you're gonna let me know. You're gonna call me. You're gonna let me know that you can't make it. And I was very active in my church. I mean, I was what I would call a church rat. You have gym rats. I was a church rat. I wanted to be in church as much as I could. My summers, my evenings, my mornings, the weekends. So, but that to me marked a beautiful season of my life that I carry even till today.
I mean, dude, that's so good, because I think about, like, oftentimes I feel like in life you have to really, like, dim the lights in other areas of your life to brighten one, to really get that restoration, right? And I think when somebody thinks like, well, man, that's a lot of church, that's a lot of days, that's a lot of commitment. Well, when you're in a certain spot, sometimes it's like that, right? Like, I remember even going through some of my biggest struggles and adversities where I feel like the enemy was attacking me, and like he was trying to label me based off of what I was actually going through. Like, he was trying to make me think I was a failure because I was having some failure moments. That in those moments, man, I had to like watch less Netflix. I had to be more in the Word. I had to have worship music on all the time. Like, it wasn't just like in the morning. It was like in my car. It was at my office. And I think oftentimes we lose track of that. Like, no, that's a good thing. Like the pastor saying, hey, you need to be here every time, every service. He knew that, like, man, you need to submerge in so you don't get pulled into what the enemy's trying to identify you as. And I think that's such an important thing for most people. And I think it's a good place to start too, because I don't know, about you, Pastor, but I was just on a call right before I came in, and I feel like people, after a period of time, this has been 17 years, I've been in ministry, they'll put you on a pedestal, like look at what you've done, look what you've accomplished, like, dude, everything just goes good for you, like, it's all, like, life is just easy. And the reality is, like, when you talk about all the successes that you've had, and you've had a lot in those 17 years, that impresses people, but the failures, those impact people.
Oh, yeah,
like, that
for
makes
sure.
the difference. And it makes them realize, like, oh yeah, like a broken person like me can also have an abounding faith like you.
For sure. Yeah, you think about businesses. I mean, my background was also in business. You learn more from failures than you do from successes, because I've learned one thing. It's never as good as it looks, and it's never as bad as it feels. It's never as good as it looks, and it's never as bad as it feels. I've learned that in life. I've learned that in ministry. I've learned that in business. Because success makes you believe that, hey, we're pretty invincible around here. I just throw it against the wall, and it always sticks. Yeah. And yet failure, it causes you to look within. It causes you to look up. It causes you to question all of the decisions that you've made. And, so for me, that's my demeanor. My story, I wanted no part of ministry. In my perfect world, I would be in the marketplace. I would finance a kingdom, and I would help my pastor. I wasn't even worried about a seat. For me, it wasn't about the second, third, or fourth seat. I just want to finance the kingdom. If my pastor needs me in any capacity, that's what I'll do. So when I look back and I think, why was that my posture? Well, the reason it was my posture was because I was somewhat annoyed and disturbed by the unrealistic expectations that people put on men of God. So it's like God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and then God the pastor. Not knowing that we're flawed, we have weaknesses, we have proclivities, we have things that we're still working through, believing God for. And what I saw a lot of people do in the ministry is put on a facade. And they put on this facade until they retire. And then we've heard the horror stories. So for me, I had a real one-on-one with the Lord. I will not be anything except for me. Of course, a sanctified version, but I just refuse to be anybody else. I'm not trying to be anybody else. I'm trying to be me. So I'm very self-deprecating. I'm very, I'll share my losses. I've had pastors that have asked me, hey man, tell me what you're doing right. That's one. And I said, before I tell you that, let me tell you where we failed, because that's going to teach you a lot more about who we are, That's
so good, dude. I love that. Looking at like the failures, Pastor Eli, like what is one great failure that in the last like 17 years that you believe like kind of helped shape you, that kind of had to happen in order for that breakthrough that maybe you ended up experiencing on the other side of that?
Yeah.
Like what was that great failure, and what was a lesson that you learned from it that really set you up for that next breakthrough?
Yeah, in the early stages, we wanted to be a church that was very heavily involved in the community. So there was a lot of fire, there was a lot of zeal, but there was very poor structure behind it. So I remember I grew up in a very Pentecostal, evangelical, word of faith type of atmosphere. So we're gonna go after
the church.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to get after it. So I remember that it was in one of those moments that hey man, we should really do something with outreach. We should start an outreach ministry. And I'm like, hey man, let's start an outreach ministry, right? And I saw a leader. I kind of spoke life over that leader. You're gonna run with it. Well, lo and behold, there was no structure, there was no systems, there was no protocols. Yeah. So it didn't take long, right, for that fire to sizzle, to kind of like, to get
the emotions fade.
The emotions fade. And then we're getting phone calls. Hey man, the church was supposed to show up. The team never showed up. So now our name is attached to this. So I had to call everyone in and say, hey guys, time out. We're gonna stop doing this because we're not ready to do it. And I think that there's many moments, there's many opportunities, and I have seen that it's more polarizing today than it was when we started in 2009 because of social media. Yeah. There is a very thin line between worldly ambition and this desire for explosive growth. It should never be about being the biggest or the greatest. It should always be about building people. And if you make your focus people, then everything else will come. But I have been in circles and in conversations where it worries me, because what I'm hearing a lot of is, by definition, worldly ambition. We have to be very cautious when it comes to that in the body of Christ and in business. Yeah. You got to be very calculated and intentional, because you may not.
It creeps in.
That's right.
Yeah, it creeps in. You might be so focused on building people, or using a company to build people, and eventually that shifts where it's now you're starting to use people to build your company. And I think, man, it sneaks in, dude. It's like one of those things where you have to almost like every day, like I have an affirmation, because I've witnessed that in my business career of like being so focused on just like pouring into people and loving people and serving people and valuing people. And then all of a sudden, like after a time, it's like, man, I'm really just more focused on the win than the actual people.
Yeah.
And it's like that paradox, because when you're focused on the win instead of the people, you actually lose more often. But I need to put in affirmations together. Part of my morning routine is to have affirmations where I say, like, I'm a person of value that values others. I love people. I serve people. I believe the best about people. And I have to intentionally do that, because every morning it's like a reset of saying, hey, although I'm competitive, and I hate losing.
Same.
I hate it.
Same.
I got to make sure that my focus is on the people, because ultimately that's what leads to the win anyways. And I'm called to love my neighbor. But yeah, you're 100% right. And I think it's got to be an intentional thing, or it'll just, everybody's, Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what you do, Pastor, but let me tell you what I do. And it's something that I was really birthed out of the secret place, just in prayer with the Lord. Every fall, and I don't know why it's the fall, right? There's no magic formula here, but for me, it's the fall. Every fall, I get in my office and I ask myself one question: why do you do it? Why do you do it? I've heard way too many stories of pastors that are doing it for a paycheck.
Yeah.
They're doing it because they have to do it. I ask myself, why do you do it? And if the answer is not Jesus, if the answer is not that same young Eli that at the age of 12 and 13 would spend his Sunday nights watching the Family Channel and would put a towel so that the light of the TV would not creep into the hallway, my parents would not rush into the room, to watch John Osteen, Lake Joel's dad, and hear and see what God was doing in other parts of the country. If I don't go to that place represents the scene of God's impact. That's what I consider to be the wilderness experience of Moses. You study the Bible, you find that they all had a place, right? So that's my question. Why do you do it? And you have to land on, it's all for you, Jesus. It's all about you. It's not about anything else.
Talk about that tension as you're discipling young people now. And you mentioned the social media, right? It's so easy to look at everyone's platform, and it's so easy to get mesmerized by the views and the reach, right? And so you're seeing a lot of young people that step into ministry, or even business, right? And it's like there's this worldly ambition that comes alongside with the spotlight, right? And so as you're discipling young people who have a zeal for the Lord and passion for ministry, how are you living in that tension of like, hey, yes, it is good to grow and to build and to be ambitious and to do it, but at the same time have this understanding that if it's not for the Lord and if it's not for his people, it's all for nothing. Like how are you discipling young people coming up in the ministry that are ambitious and want to?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, first of all, I remember that I was once young.
Yeah.
Right? And I was firing at all cylinders. Testosterone levels were through the roof. Right? And so I remember that I was once young. So that's something to take into consideration. I don't want to be that guy that sounds like comes across with a condescending approach towards a young generation. You got to be careful as a David when you approach a Samuel. Right? So that's one thing I do. The second thing I do is that I put my focus on the character development, where they want to learn what they see. So what I tell people is this: what you see on Sunday from pastors, you see their gift on display. You don't see them. The church does not know Pastor Eli Serrano. The only people that know Pastor Eli are Candy, Alyssa, Isaiah, Miles, and Sophia. Those are my two kids and their significant others, and that's my wife.
Yeah.
So I wanna impress those closest to me. I want those to be the most impressed by me, by my godliness, by my character. So I focus on the character piece, which at times that's very uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for the leader, but it's also probably more uncomfortable for the disciple, for the young person that's there, that's full of ambition, that's excited. So there are certain things that I have challenged. For instance, with AI, I just sent one of our spiritual sons. He's at Word of Life in upstate New York, and I had a one-on-one with him, and I said, I need you to make me a promise, son. He said, what's that, Pastor? That you won't cheat your way through seminary with AI. That you won't use AI for sermon prep, for sermon development. That if you have to use it as a data point to grab historicals, that's one thing. To gather information, that's one thing. But to execute what you have to do, make me that promise. He said, absolutely, Pastor. Why? Because it's a lot easier today than it was back then. Yeah. I remember a moment where my desk was full of concordance, Strong's Concordance, the Hebrew, the Greek, all these things. Whereas now, you're just one click away.
Right.
From someone doing it for you.
So good.
So those are the things that I deal with. I deal with character development. Let's get into the weeds. Do you show up early? Are you punctual? Right? Are you intentional? Like if you had a platform ministry moment on Sunday, where are you for the next youth service? Are you there or did you take it off? I tell the church the most important Sunday is the Sunday after Easter. Yeah. Not Easter. Because on Easter,
everybody shows up.
Everybody shows up, and we're all pretty. We got our Easter clothes, but who we are is not Easter. Who we are is the Sunday after Easter. And if we see a significant drop in detail, in energy, in personnel, then we're probably living in the shores of hype, and we're not truly building the way that we ought to build. So character, it's a foundational piece. That's what I focus on with the young generation.
So good. Well, what are some things that you give them like practically to develop the character, right? Because I think oftentimes it's difficult, especially as you're leading a big flock, to be all things to all people. You know, I find myself a lot of times it's like, you know, I want to give my best, but there's only so much time, right? So that's where the intentionality has to be really heightened and elevated. But then, you know, also making sure that I'm guiding them and leading them towards different things that they can do that's going to help them continue to grow and develop as a leader in their character. What are some things that you kind of like practically try to like, you know, guide and point people to that when it's not time one-on-one with you, that they're actually doing outside of that to really develop that character? Because I agree, like that's the foundation that everything is built upon, is like your values, your character.
For sure.
So like how do you help them develop when it's not just like the time that you're spending really kind of pinpointing maybe specific areas that you think need to be grown and areas that you need to kind of be dealt with, right?
Yeah, so, you know, besides what I mentioned right now of punctuality, there are practical things that are connected to the ministry. But for me, a big one is accountability. Like, who are you accountable to? Yeah. Like, who are you accountable to? It can't be me, right? I can't be the only source, right? I have so many people. So accountability is one. And then independent learning is another. Like, what are you reading? So part of our programs, we're in the process of having a local branch similar to what you guys are doing here at for a college. But we have a program currently, we call it Ascension, and it's all independent learning. It's modules, 4 modules, about 18 months, and predominantly independent learning. If you can't be an independent learner, then you have not shown yourself to be faithful.
So good.
Yeah, so independent learning is critical. What are you reading? Tell me a little bit about contextually. What have you learned? Yeah. What does it mean to you? And we've got some measurables. So they're submitting essays. They are answering questions. They're showing up to these. So that's part of what we do.
I love that.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's like a good personal growth plan.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because at the end of the day, you can't, like, give what you don't have. And so if you want to give leadership, you have to become a better leader. Yeah. And that comes from independent learning. I love that because it's like accountability, but also responsibility to actually go out there and do it on your own accord. And so I think that'd be like a challenge for everybody watching today is like, what is something specifically that you're developing currently within your character, and what are you doing to develop that? Is that a book? Is it a Bible study? Is it like frequent one-on-one conversations with individuals that are kind of helping with blind spots in different areas that you need to grow in? But I love that. I think that's such an important thing, and I think it's a reflection of what Jesus did with the disciples, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, when we talk about the Gospels, remember, the gift It comes from the gift giver. So in the big scheme of things, the gift does not belong to you. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the gift giver. However, Jesus said that there is one thing that belongs to us, and that is the fruit. Jesus said, you shall know them for their fruit. So the only thing that we have to show as tangible is the fruit of our life. And if we're going to talk about the fruit, we go to Galatians and we talk about the fruit of the Spirit. We talk about character. So who you are is not what you do. What you do, if it's done orderly. So let's talk in the context of a pastor. The way I treat my bride is the cap of how I will treat the bride of Christ. If I treat the bride of Christ better than I treat my bride, that is out of order. And I could, you could be presumptuous and you could go for a little bit on human strength, but eventually you're building on sandy soil.
Yeah.
So the fruit of our life. And that's where, again, in the 21st century, in a hyper-competitive arena, church has become that as well. It's not just sales. It's not just business. Church has become another part of mainstream America where we are comparing and we're saying, hey, man, this guy did it like this. Where am I? And I have many people that I listen to that I'm inspired by, but I have to know that I have to answer to one, and that one is Jesus.
How do you deal with comparison? Especially because I love that you said it creeps into the church. I think people think, oh, that's just the worldly stuff. But in the quote unquote business of church, that's a real thing.
For sure.
Is you have all these ministers who are now in competition, right?
Yeah. With
not only local pastors, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, yeah.
But then you see what's going on with all the conferences and you're like, oh, like I went to like a church gathering, just a bunch of pastors, and I think it was like maybe 2 weeks after Easter, and we're feeling good. I think Paul's with me. We had like our biggest Easter ever. We had over 3,000. Like we're fired up, like 5 services, and you go there, and like the guys on stage are like, yeah, we had 72,000, and then you're like, whoa. And then all of a sudden, this comparison and creeps up, and insecurity creeps up. We're doing nothing. We're not making an impact for the kingdom. Yeah. Like, no lives changed. How have you dealt with that over the last 17 years? Comparison, competition, just like being secure in who you are. Because that's one thing that I see in you is you're very secure in who you are and who God's called you to be. And I love that because I resonate with that. Me personally, my personality is more like, let me just go home, stay quiet. I do social media. I don't like social media. Like I don't like posting my team. That's like forced me to do it.
Same, yeah.
And so I see a lot of me in you.
Yeah, same.
Right. And so talk about that. How you've stayed so grounded yet made such a massive impact to the people that God's called you to impact.
Hey, listen, I could tell you this. So when we started, and this is what I would share with a lot of young leaders: find your voice. Because when I started, 2009, I didn't have anyone. When I tell you I didn't have anyone, I had my pastor that I was connected to, but again, our church was growing, and there were certain things that even he couldn't help me with.
Yeah.
There was a lot of spiritual support, amazing friend there for me, our marriage, our children, but there were some limitations. So what do? I do what a lot of my colleagues are doing. So you're listening to other pastors and you're listening to other churches and and I found myself, pastor, that I lost my voice.
Yeah.
I lost my voice. I was starting to sound like everyone else.
Jeez.
But I lost my voice. So I went to the Lord because it makes for a very confusing week of sermon prep. It's almost like going to Thanksgiving dinner and going to 7 houses, and then by the end of the night, they ask you, what was your favorite stuffing?
Right.
And you're like, bro, I'm trying to digest. Like, I'm going to have a crappy 3 days because I'm in the middle of, I had like 15,000 calories today, right? I think the same thing happened to me. Here I am. I'm a young 27-year-old. I just started the church. We have a great team, but I sound like everyone else, and I lost my voice. And I went to the Lord, and the first thing I had to do was, you have to repent.
Yeah.
Because for a season in your life, you're putting your trust on someone other than God, right? Be inspired by us, but don't make me your focus. My responsibility and our responsibility as pastors and as leaders is we are pointing people to the source, and we are not the source. And if we point them to us, boy, will they be disappointed.
Yeah.
But if they see us and are inspired by us, but then our reasonable response to that is, let me point them to Jesus. Let me tell you what. So for me, I had to repent. I had to shut it off. I went probably 5 or 6 months without listening to anyone. Literally, absolutely no one. Just getting in the Word and finding my cadence.
So good.
It's like having 7 golf instructors teaching you how to swing, right? You're going to look like Charles Barkley, right, by the time you're done with it. So for me, that's what I had to do.
So good.
I had to silence the noise. I had to get into that secret place. I had to find my voice, and I had to come to terms. And if you let, and nothing against the sheep, I love the sheep, but the sheep bite. And if you let the sheep or your sales team dictate how you're going to run the business, how you're going to run the ministry, then you'll have a Reformed guy that wants you to be a little bit this way, and you'll have a Calvinist that wants you to be a little bit this way, and you'll have a Pentecostal that says our services should be longer, and you'll have a Baptist that says, Pastor, why do you have to be so loud, right? And why do we need 7 guitars up there, right? You need to know who you are, and you need to know the vision that God has given you. And you need to run with that. I'm not trying to be everyone to everybody. Our church may not be the church for everyone, right? So that's one of the things that I've done, and that's gotten me to a place of a healthy cadence, I would say.
Yeah, I think, man, it's so applicable in every vein, dude. Like, I mean, in every way. Like, even in business, there's so many different people nowadays, especially on Instagram and social media, that are that business coach, that leader. And so you go out there and you feel like you're filling up on all this stuff, and then you have no clarity on like how to execute yourself because you're out of alignment. You're like trying to do it this way, that way. And so I think this is like a great kind of check for everybody to say, hey, am I overdoing it in one area, right? Because it's kind of like you could overdo anything, because there is that balance where you want to be able to like lean in and listen to those that you feel like kind of feed you and inspire you and help you with your creative thought process and kind of evoke some different thoughts and ways about going about doing what you're doing. But then you could do too much.
That's right.
Right. And I think that's the challenge we are in today is I think we're more inclined to do too much because there's so much information, man.
Yeah.
And everybody sounds good. Everybody kind of looks good. It all makes sense. And then you look at their fruit from what's being shown on social media, and you're like, well, I like that fruit, and if I like that fruit, then I got to do it that way.
And that's where I believe, and this is something that last year I wrestled with, and I felt the Lord just kind of impress in my heart. There's not enough teachings on faithfulness. Everyone talks about discipline, everyone talks about, but there's very few books that have been written on faithfulness. In other words, just keep showing up.
Yeah.
Like if I make my goal to have 10% body fat, and that's my goal, I'm probably going to fail. But if I just keep showing up, Monday after Monday, Tuesday after Tuesday. So as a business person, keep making that phone call. Become one with rejection, right? As a pastor, you're going to stumble. You're going to stumble. Just keep on swinging. Yeah. Swing the axe. And sooner or later, you're going to find your cadence. You're going to find your voice. You're going to find who you are. So that for me, faithfulness is critical.
So good.
And that's what I try to do every day.
There's a podcast I was listening to with Craig Groeschel, and he was talking to a bunch of business leaders, and he was talking about what success looks like. And really the whole point of his talk was, success is boring. Like it's found in the boring, mundane routine, and we have to be so cautious and so aware not to get caught thinking that the grass is greener, or we have to do this, because I found myself doing that many times. It's like, okay, here we are, things are going well, but what's next, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what else do we need to add into, as opposed to just staying in the lane? Because I've gotten all the emails and the texts and the DMs, all the Reformed, the Baptist, the Pentecostal, the doom and gloom, all of it, right? And then you find yourself going, well, maybe they're right. Maybe we should do this, but it's so funny that you say like you have to just silence it, because I think Paul asked me maybe about a year ago, like, dude, who you listen to? Like, and I'm like, dude, honestly, I don't listen to anyone, because you find yourself lost.
Oh yeah.
Right. And yeah, there's encouragement, and then the next thing you know, I got a Southern accent, and the next thing you know, I got a New York accent, and the next
get ready.
Exactly. Like who is this guy?
Who's this guy?
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know, because I don't know. Right. And so probably the last 2 years now, I've just been very intentional about finding who I am, because I think, I don't know who it was, but they said it takes a pastor about 7 years to find his voice.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so to hear you say that is not only encouraging, but like just being faithful with the little.
That's right.
Right. Being faithful. Our friend Jeff says, like, you got to get in alignment to your assignment.
Ooh,
and I think
good.
so many of us, we're out of alignment. And so, yeah, we're going through life, but we're wobbly. Like the steering, like you're driving, but you're if you let that thing go, it's going to veer. Yep. But when you get in alignment, right, it's smooth, right? And it might not be the funnest or the fastest, but it's consistent, and you're going to see the fruit of it. So I'm just encouraged.
And God has a way to humble us, right?
For sure.
So for us, right, I don't know if it's happened to you. I'm sure it has as a communicator, and for you too, Paul. You prepare your speech or your sermon, and as you're preparing it, you're like, man, this one's gonna be a grand slam. Like I'm seeing the moments where
right here.
Right here.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a shout, right? And you preach a sermon and you hear the crickets, man. Like you hear the crickets in Wisconsin. Like you don't, you hear absolutely no response. You're like, oh, okay. I mean, it blessed me. Maybe it was for me.
For sure.
Maybe God just wrecked me, which every preaching starts with the preacher. Right. Like it's supposed to wreck you, but this one was probably just for me. And then you'll do a sermon that you're like, whatever. Okay. The prodigal story again. Okay. David and Goliath again. Okay. Right. The woman at the well. All right. The burning bush. Okay. And you preach it, and you've probably preached it before, and God just told you, hey, the church needs to hear this, and you just being obedient. And that's the sermon that people are like, Pastor, that was the greatest thing. And in the back of your mind, you're like, really?
Yeah.
So, and it's God's way to humble us. It's God's way to remind us that it's never been our church. It's always been His church. And the gospel has power on its own. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to, we think that we are defenders, but the gospel stands on its own. So, yeah.
So good, man. I even think about, like, in the marketplace, my approach is different when I'm doing a podcast and it's going to be published on, in business or leadership specific to that. And the funny thing is, man, anytime I really do a good job in like sprinkling in the word, like it always lands so much better. And you're like, dude, that was so good. And then I realized like it was just scripturally like sound and it was based off a biblical foundation, right? And so I just proved to the fact that like, the word has got so much of a better way to go further, impact more.
That's right.
Than anything we can kind of critically come up with. It's like just reading a scripture sometimes does a lot more than whatever creative story, narrative, or thing that we think that is going to land is so much better. Pastor, so we've talked a lot about like failure. How has success, because you've had some great successes too. I got a chance to meet the family. I met Candy. She came over to the house, and you've had some successes. There's no question. Family, ministry. I got a chance to go golfing with Jason. The relationship you guys have as friends and brothers. Like there's great fruit there. Like, how has success challenged your leadership differently than failure has shaped or challenged your leadership?
I think that I have, people have a very unique way of defining success. For me, I think success is subjective. I mean, everyone has their own definition. For me, success is rooted in the scriptures. I want to do God's will. I want to honor Him, and I want to honor the different roles that I play in their right order. So for me, being a pastor is not at the top of that list. For me, at the top of that list is being a disciple. And then after I'm a disciple, I'm a husband. And then after I'm a husband, I'm a father. And then after I'm a father, I'm a friend. And then after being a friend, I'm a pastor. And that's what my iPad reads, that I was able to inscribe when I ordered it. And I purposely did it that way to remind myself. So that's how I define success. So let's get into the weeds of it. I hold at the very top of my value system, our team. One of my favorite quote was by Billy Graham. He says, "Find some friends, change the world, and have fun doing it." We started with 7 families. Those 7 families are still a part of our church. Our launch team was comprised of my best friends. Those guys, a lot of them are on staff. For me, that's my church. That's the first church. Those are the 12, if you will. The greatest disappointment is not just that Judas betrayed Jesus, but as you study the Passover, as you study that Thursday night, when Jesus is washing the feet of his disciples, when you look at the text, there's a part of me that as I study the Gospels, I see the desire of Jesus wanting for his disciples to love even the fallen Judas. Yeah. So for me, I guard that. I give open access to my best friend to speak into my life when something is wrong. I don't believe in what's happened in mainstream America and in the churches. I don't believe that there should be a grave site behind the church for those that pave the way. A lot of times, those that are closest to the pastor. I believe that this should be a top priority. I believe that no matter what success God's house has, Restoration City Church has, I don't believe that my marriage should suffer. I don't believe that my parenting should suffer. I don't believe that my friends should now feel like they're excommunicated from being a part of the inner circle. So you have to be intentional about that. So when we started, once a month, we would have dinner in our house. Candy and I would sponsor it and cook for them. I wanted them to know that I'm here to serve them, that they sacrificed for the vision, but I'm here sacrificing for them. So I wanted to model that with them. Now they've all decided to have a plethora of kids. So our house, no matter how big it may be, it could be challenging, but we still try to get together and have dinners, whether it be the couples, whether it be the children for Christmas, and honor them. So that's something that I am very, very cautious of. And if it costs me growth at the church level, that's a price I'm willing to pay. If that means that the church does not grow and doesn't become a church of 20,000 members, then that's fine. If it means that I have to sacrifice my relationship with those people, I'm not willing to do it.
Man, it's so great. I mean, to me, Pastor Eli, like this whole conversation is just really kind of, I guess, put on the forefront of my mind, like the importance of understanding priorities and then going after those.
That's right.
And being very clear and not, I think a lot of times when life gets cloudy, it's because our priorities got cloudy.
For sure. It's good.
And so I think, to me, this has been great. It's
like, unbelievable.
I'm oftentimes, I hear something, I'm like, that's really good. And then there's other times where I'm like, that's really good. And at the same time, I'm reflecting and asking myself, like, how good am I doing with this? And taking it a personal account. And it's like almost like making notes and taking notes. Like I've been taking notes, but making notes. Like how do I get better with this? And so for that, I'm very grateful that it's been a conversation that's led me to that, where it's not like, oh, that's good thing. Yeah. But like this is I think a lot of people on here, you feel the same way. You usually say, hey, share this. If you haven't shared this, then you just don't care about people. And so it's like, what's the number one leadership thing? You just started caring about people. I love this, man. So good. Pastor Branamier.
Yeah. I mean, Pastor, you're just a well of wisdom. And so talk about, I think there's a lot of people right now who deal with like isolation, loneliness, kind of like lack of identity, lack of purpose. Talk about like building a tribe, right? So I think it's very easy to be connected online, right? Or have an appearance of family, because that's something I think I've heard several comments made from people who aren't from California, and maybe we could just speak to the high desert, is there's almost like a lack of community, right? So people will gather in church space or, work, but then outside of that, there's a lot of isolation. as opposed to like the South or maybe where you guys are from, it feels more like a family or more community. So maybe speak to that. Like how would you encourage someone to like maybe get out of their comfort zone, build a tribe, seek brotherhood? Because that's something I've talked about with you as far as like a brotherhood within ministry. Like I seek it, right? Because I know I need like brothers to run with. Like you said, just find your tribe, change the world and have fun. How would someone get out of their comfort zone? Would it be like, would you encourage like local church? Would you encourage like, hey, go on a dating app? Like what? How would you encourage people to get connected?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of many different avenues. There was I have a doctor at the church, and he just said something that was very, very impactful. Our men gather together during different semesters. We call it Mentality Back Home. And we closed out this last semester just talking about mental health, and I brought in this doctor. And he shared with the church that in the 60s, I believe it, don't quote me here, but either the 50s or the 60s, the federal government finally put a warning label that said that cigarettes are harmful. And it was the first time that he had done that they had intervened and had said, hey, this is, I know it's part of the market, but this will kill you eventually if and they just did that again. They just, for the second time, the federal government intervened and they said, this is also a danger. And that danger point that they pointed out was isolation.
Wow.
Loneliness, where it's become such a dangerous thing. So what do I say to that? So I think it's a combination of many factors. Number one, we need community. We need community. Now, what keeps us from community? Well, the obvious thing, hurt, disappointment. We are the sum total of all of our experiences. And if we continue to sweep them under the rug, not confront them, not deal with them, then it's going to keep us away from what we need, right? So relational pain, just like the venom of a snake, has to be once again put back into the antidote to help you once you've been bitten. Yeah. Relational pain gets healed relationally. So if you've ever been betrayed, guess what? God is going to make a way for you to step back into a relationship, into a friendship, so that you can experience the very thing that hurt you will now heal you. So we need community, but we need to heal. We need to acknowledge that pain exists. We also have to have healthy expectations. Not everyone that comes into your life is going to be a blessing to you. Maybe you're called to be a blessing to them.
Yeah.
Not everyone is going to pour into you. You're called to pour into them. So we have to have realistic expectations. So I think it's a combination of different factors. I always tell people, and for me, relationships I have no problem getting on a plane, showing up for a friend. Why? Matthew 7:12. It's the golden rule. Man, I just want to believe. I want to believe the scriptures that you reap what you sow. And I want to believe that if I do that when I need it, someone would do it for me. So I think it's imperative that we know that relationships require three things. They require time, energy, and resources. You're going to have to sacrifice time.
Very good.
What did COVID do? COVID isolated us. They called it social distancing. Back home, you'll see, as familiar as it may feel, we have the same challenges. Why? Because small groups were meant to be done in small spaces. But now everyone wants to close their house from people. Because now, post-COVID, it's my home. Yeah. It's our house. So it's a very dangerous thing, because at the heart of the gospel is house churches. At the heart of the gospel is the house becomes the home where God begins to show up, and from there we outgrow it and go into meeting places. So time, energy, and resources. We need time. We need energy, because sometimes I need to hear from Paul. Sometimes Paul needs to hear from me. So if I'm only talking in a relationship and it's a dialogue, it's a monologue rather than a dialogue, then that's not healthy, right? So time, energy, and then resources. There's going to be moments that, hey man, lunch is on me. Yeah. It's your birthday. I bought you this, right? I move as the Lord leads me. So yeah, those
very
things.
Good.
So good, man.
So very, very quickly because we had a conversation when we first met. You were sharing about your men's mentality.
Yeah.
And I was in a season of praying how to lead our men better, right? And so I've been on this journey of like, man, the Lord's really convicted me that if I'm leading, I need to lead not only well, but I need to lead by example. I need to lead in every area of my life, because there is a spotlight being in the position that we're in. And so people now, they might be encouraged by your faith and how you preach, but they're really looking at your life, how you love your wife, how you treat your kids, how you maybe look or appear physically. Like I know as a man, it's very hard for me to receive from someone when I could look at their life and maybe see some areas that I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I want to fully follow that man because of X, Y, and Z. And so I've been trying to be very intentional, leading every area of my life. Not perfect, certainly not, but like just getting better and progressing. And so when you were telling me about your mentality men's, that inspired us to start our men's Monday night. And so we've seen massive impact in the men of our church. And so maybe just speak to the men of our church or just this generation, like, because we hear so many different things on social media, the alpha male, this is what a man is. And then you hear it in the world and you hear it from this social media guy. But then there's a real picture of a man and what a godly man is actually supposed to be. So maybe talk about just briefly like the mentality Monday nights, why you did that, why it's important for men. And then what are maybe like some characteristics of like what an actual man of God is?
Yeah, so a lot of the different shifts of ministry basically are birthed out of great frustration, right?
Yeah.
In business, you're like, man, I'm tired of seeing the quarter. We're going from this to this, and so I looked at the landscape of our church, and I saw that these men did not, number one, represent the Lord. Number two, they did not represent the Word, and they didn't represent me. Like as their pastor, I was seeing men just kind of like, their wives were leading, their wives were standing in the gap, their wives were showing up, their wives weren't punctual, they were late, they weren't serving, and I was really frustrated. So I said, I have this idea. So I always take an idea to the Lord, and then I go to the stakeholders, because some of them weren't hitting the mark either. Yeah. So you got to start with the 12. So you start with them, and you're like, I know you could give more. What do you think is wrong with the men? And I bring them in. Sit at the table. You probably don't deserve to sit at this table, but sit at the table and give me your perspective. And then put your money where your mouth is. Right? Well, I think that the men should be standing in the, everybody gets prophetic and biblical. I think the men need to stand in the gap. They need to be what God called them to be. Okay, so I have this idea. I just want you to help me pray for it, and when the time comes, I'll reveal it to you. And I started galvanizing 3 or 4 or 5. 5 became 10. Before you knew it, we had a small little army of like 40 or 50 men that were looking forward to this thing. I got in a room with them, casted vision, and we started, and it has revolutionized our church. I'm talking about from the men serving, from giving, from standing in the gap, it's been revolutionary for our church. Yeah. What is a godly man? A godly man loves the Lord. A godly man loves what God has entrusted, right, in his hands. So he's stewarding well. So he loves Jesus. He stewards well. The gifts, the relationships, the finances, the responsibilities. So in that, we speak about marriage. We speak about singleness. We speak about purity for the young adults. We speak about children. Like, I need you to love your children. I need you to be a model example. So I've written a bunch of curriculum since we started. We started in the fall of 24. We're now 2 years in as we turn the fall. And like I said, this last month we dealt with mental health. The last semester before that, we created a parallel, the high priest of the Old Testament and his responsibilities, and how does that compare to men? So God produces the fire. High priests have to tend and keep that fire. So as men, we're supposed to be the ones worshiping. And I don't want to get into the facts and after World War II, what happened in our society and why the men kind of took a back seat after they were coming home from war. Their wives were working. But there is a great, all those things have to be confronted. And it has changed our ministry for sure.
I love it.
I've got like 47 more questions, just so you know, and I really want to answer them. So
yeah, go ahead.
But we just for the sake of the time, we'll land the plane, but we're definitely got to get you back on, because like I got some good questions I'm looking at, and man, this has been so valuable to me.
Yeah.
I don't think that's just a me thing. I think everybody watching today is like shaking their head like, yeah, this has been very good for them. So Pastor Eli, thank you for just opening up, man, sharing your heart, being vulnerable, open, transparent with us this morning. I think this is one that yes, did inspire, but also impacted. I think it did both. And so thank you for the time you've invested in us today, man. I love you, bro.
Thank you for the opportunity. I continue praying for you guys. I love you guys. You know, you guys are stuck with me.
Yeah, you're stuck with us.
Okay, cool.
It's crazy California boys.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
We're gonna go through the high desert jungle.
Yeah.
We'll go through some front yards. All right, guys. Hey, well, we love you. Make this a big week. Share this with somebody. Subscribe so that way you don't miss anything. Make it a massive week. Be strong. Stay steadfast. And we love you. God bless you guys. Take care. Bless you.